Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Very Best Podcast, an interview show focused on our personal connections to the Pokemon franchise and what it means to us. With me today, former video game critic and longtime internet pal, Pokemon Ranger Auri O'Neill. Welcome to the show, Auri.
Hey, thank you, Jerrad. Thank you for the welcome.
It's been a long time since we've done something together. A very long time, back in the Irrational Passions days. Glad to have you back.
Mm-hmm. Good to be back.
So, some of the guests have asked me the trainer class. I pick them at random. I try to fit them to the guest if I can. And for you, your list of favorite Pokemon you had sent me is a little varied, so it was kind of hard to pick what I wanted to do. So I figured Pokemon Ranger. I don't know how familiar you are with the anime, but it's like a pretty cool class of trainers in the world of Pokemon, so I think it's pretty fitting.
Yeah, I like Ranger. I think Ranger fits.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. I think underutilized in a lot of ways, not just in the anime, but in general. I think they could be used more. Okay, so our first segment is the Fast Five. This is a set of 5 secret icebreaker questions designed to help us get into the groove of talking about Pokemon. This is the only part of the show that you didn't know about beforehand, so good luck. Once again, this isn't about necessarily being right, it's just about answering top of the head. Some of these do have right and wrong answers, some of them are more subjective to the guest. Are you ready, Ari?
I was born ready.
Okay, in 3, 2, 1. Question number 1. What typing is Charizard?
Flying fire.
Unfortunately, yes. Number 2. What is Steel type weak to?
Ground and fire. And
Correct. Okay.
something else maybe.
Yeah, fighting.
Fighting, yes.
Yeah. That was a hard type, so don't worry too bad. Number 3. How many new Pokemon were introduced in Gen 5, aka Black and White?
150 new Pokemon.
156 exactly, which I thought it was 150 as well. I didn't
yeah.
know that. Number 4. As someone living in Maryland, name a non-Kanto crab Pokemon.
Cloth.
Good
our
one,
boy,
yeah,
our Paldean boy.
There's 5 non-Kanto crab Pokemon, which is interesting. There's Crabrawler, Crabominable, Dwebble, Crustle, who's one of my personal favorites, who has the layers of earth on its back, and then Cloth, obviously, the big weirdo from the newest gen. Last question. What's the name for increasing shiny breeding chances by breeding Pokemon from 2 different real-world regions? The
Masuda method.
Ding, ding, ding. We got a winner. Awesome. Once again, don't worry about right or wrong answers. I think you pretty much nailed it.
I didn't think it would be a pop quiz, is the thing. I feel like my Pokemon knowledge is on display now.
You did well. The only one you got wrong is you said 150 instead of 156.
Yeah.
You did great. The Charizard thing
I'll take
trips up people. I think often people are like, oh yeah, he's dragon type. No, they never reverted and did that. He's fire flying for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fire starter, so he's got to be fire type, right? And one of his megas is fire dragon, so it makes up for it a little bit with me because I do like mega evolution, but yeah, it is a shame that he's not dragon type.
Well, maybe there's outliers here, so maybe I'm wrong, but to me, dragon always implies flying as well. You know what I mean? So
sure.
Like, you don't necessarily need to have flying, and he's like a poster child of the series.
Yeah, you do get like Altaria and Dragonite, and I think a couple others that are dragon flying.
Yeah.
But I do agree, it is a little redundant. Especially like Garchomp is dragon ground, and he can learn fly, and nothing makes sense with that, in my opinion. So
yeah. Another poster child that's a little weird for no reason. Excuse me. Next up, we have your first steps. Everyone remembers their first time with Pokemon. So I want to start off with asking you how you first learned about Pokemon growing up. Was it at school? Was it a magazine at a store? How exactly did you find out about this beloved series?
it was like literally my first big like feeling of FOMO when I was in elementary school and everyone's talking about this new thing that's called Pokemon, and I have no idea what anyone's talking about. It was because of the anime at the time. So this was probably a little bit after the games had come out, and everyone was very into the show, and that's what kind of was my gateway into playing it. My brothers had played Pokemon, but I hadn't even heard of it. It not pulled my attention until maybe like second grade when people were talking about it. Then I went and watched the show, and then that was kind of like the whole floodgates were open at that point. I was very into it.
So it was with the anime, but when you finally got around to playing a game in the series, what was the first game you got your hands on?
I played Pokemon Yellow.
Yellow, okay.
As the third child of my family, I got
The youngest?
the youngest.
Yeah.
I got the fun combine it all together game at the end. So I got Yellow, Crystal, and Emerald when I was growing up, which was I think it was really good for me I liked getting everything, and I think it like helped spawn my need to collect them all. Although, I wouldn't actually do that until much later, but yeah, I started with Yellow, and it was a lot of stopping and starting and stopping and starting because that game was very difficult for me as like, a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
But as you might imagine, but like when I'd heard about Pokemon, I'd come home, talk to my brothers about it. One of my older brothers had a copy of Pokemon Blue, and I had played that a little bit before I had gotten my own copy of Yellow. But I consider Pokemon Yellow my first proper Pokemon game.
The thing I always find interesting with people who have siblings who are also into Pokemon, I have an older sister, but she couldn't care less, right? Is the idea of having a built-in trade partner at your house, which is both positive and negative, because I'm assuming it wasn't always super kosher when those trades were trying to be agreed upon between siblings. Did you have any of those experiences trying to trade upon your brothers?
I didn't, because we never had more than one Game Boy until much later.
Okay.
Like we all had our own game, but we would trade the Game Boy around. Is kind of how my parents made it work.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And then we never had link cables ever. So I never traded Pokemon until like Scarlet and Violet. Not even a joke.
Oh, wow.
Which is a bummer because I feel like that was a big part of it. For the older games was like actually sitting down with someone and trading with them, and I never really did that at any point.
So the only way you got trade evolutions was through like the built-in ones in the game, I'm assuming then? Where it's
Yeah.
like, can you trade me this and I'll give you this, and then it evolves.
Like Kadabra was only ever Kadabra in my game. Never there was never even the dream of an Alakazam showing up.
You probably hold some obscure world record of the person to like use Kadabra the most of anybody. Just because you never
I feel
traded
like
it.
it's pretty common now. Like I've been playing a little bit of Leaf Green recently, and it's the first time I'm actually playing that version of Gen 1. And I've been looking at guides and stuff just because I know it's going to be a little tougher for me going. I'm more of a new Pokemon person. And Kadabra, it's like if you can't trade, Kadabra is still a good option. I'm like, all right, I guess he's coming back on the team.
Yeah, the psychic types in Gen 1 are killer, even if they're not fully evolved. So I'm not surprised you're rolling with him too. Lastly, you picked up the game. Maybe this happened in the anime before you even got the game. Who's the first non-starter Pokemon you were like, oh, that's my guy?
It's funny because like I was thinking back. Today would probably be something different, but thinking back to the Pokemon on my team and who I was really into back then, like Pidgeotto and Pidgeot were probably like my favorite because I just thought it was super cool that you had a giant bird on your team that you could like ride on. So yeah, like Pidgeot is what comes to mind. As me as a kid, I was like obsessed with Pidgeotto and then Pidgeot because I just thought like a giant bird on your team was so cool.
I agree. It wasn't until I got older and I started realizing that the first area, first zone bird was a thing, and it kind of lost its luster. But as a kid, the Pidgey line was so sick.
Yeah,
I'm with you
Pidgeot
there.
is like super cool, and yeah, just all of it coming together of like, oh, I had this little bird guy, and now he's like this big bird guy, and he's carrying my whole team to all of our destinations. I think that's super cool.
I also think it's a bit of the Caterpie Weedle thing, where if you look at Caterpie and Weedle, most people would be like, "Oh, Caterpie's cute. Weedle is not really, right?" And I think that kind of happened in Gen 1 too with Pidgey and Sparrow, where there's a direct comparison. We're like, well, out of these two birds, I'm gonna want this one because A, it evolves
Yeah.
twice, and B, its final design is way cooler than Pharaoh.
Yeah. Firo does not have the cool factor like I think Pidgeot does, which is unfortunate because it has pretty good stats. So
It's so open to like a regional variant or a mega or something. I think Pharaoh is a little bit underutilized in that way. It's one of those Gen 1 Pokemon that could use a little bit of sprinkling of love. I know Gen 1
yeah,
gets plenty of love, but Pharaoh could use a little bit of a touch up.
yeah.
Um, we talked about, learning about Pokemon through the anime, having real FOMO, but if you could choose any core memory related to Pokemon, what could it be? It could be something recent, it could be something way back when you were a kid. Share with me one of your favorite memories.
It's probably something recent. Like I had written a couple of moments down, but the one that sticks out to me, like from my recent memory experience, I recently got into shiny hunting. I know we have maybe talking about that later as well, but my first like real I'm gonna do a shiny hunt experience was with Sylveon and massive outbreaks in Scarlet and Violet. So I was like resetting my clock to get the Sylveon outbreak that I wanted so I could potentially shiny hunt it. And after I finally did, it took like, maybe a day and a half. Like I had to put it down the first day. It didn't happen. And then coming back to it, which anyone who's shiny hunted, like a very low time commitment in the grand scheme of things. Uh, I finally got it. I'm doing the shiny hunt. I managed to catch 2 shiny Sylveon from this outbreak. Sylveon's one of my favorite Pokemon. Spoilers for some of my favorite Pokemon. And I remember just like being in game and just being surrounded by Sylveon. And it was one of the first moments, and this is like after I finished Scarlet and Violet and I'm in the world and I'm just doing stuff, which I never really did before that game. Like I used to just finish Pokemon and then be done with it, but that game I just kind of kept coming back to, whether it was for the raids or mass outbreaks or now more modernly shiny hunting, and just being in the world surrounded by all these like friendly Sylveon that are like mewing at me. I remember stopping multiple times and like taking pictures and things like of like, this is awesome. I love just being surrounded by Pokemon. This is what I want, a Pokemon game that is just all this, which it turns out they just made that game with Pokopia, which I haven't played yet. But yeah, that really sticks out to me of like a moment where I was like, oh, I love Pokemon. I love being someone who is surrounded by these wonderful little creatures that are friendly. They're like not all hostile. And yeah, it was just like a nice feeling, and it made me feel way more immersed in the world too, which I really liked.
The thing I love about Pokemon is somebody else can have a similar interest in a part of the series, but approach it totally differently. So I shiny hunt too. I'm much more of a casual. I kind of only shiny hunt for the very specific Pokemon I like their shiny form of, and I have never done the mass outbreak shiny hunt stuff. It's like above my head. Like I've never even taken the 5 minutes to just watch a YouTube video on how it works because I am so much a run into the bushes over and over again.
Oh, okay.
Masuda method, breeding, all that stuff. So when it comes to the mass outbreak stuff, it's not even that I'm not interested in it. It's just partially maybe because I haven't had a Pokemon that I'm super focused on trying to get a shiny form of, and maybe that'll happen with Gen 10 when that releases in 2027. But I love that you came to it and you were like, oh, I'm gonna try this out, and not only was it about catching the shiny, but it was about building the immersion with, like you said, surrounding yourself with Sylvia. It's a really cool story.
Yeah, I like that it can be both, right? Like you can get
Yeah,
into this hardcore aspect of the game series, but it can also be like this casual, like I'm just hanging out with a bunch of Pokemon and it's great.
just chill vibes.
Mm-hmm.
So the next segment is the Elite Force. This is a set of unique questions, and part of this podcast I'm doing monthly is to just talk to people about Pokemon because it's a 30th anniversary and I like to celebrate it because it is a big part of my life. But also, I wanted to put a focus on getting people from different backgrounds, walks of life on the show to show that Pokemon's for everybody. We've had some of my close internet friends, including you. We've had some artists, a disabled journalist. It's really cool to see stories from everyone. So this first question I wanted to ask you, Ari, as a trans woman, what has Pokemon meant to you in terms of both like a safe space and possibly any resistance you felt from the series? Because unfortunately, it seems like with every passing year, it's not a good place for trans people, unfortunately. And I just want to know your perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very grateful to say that I found like a pocket that I don't necessarily have to experience any like transphobia or anything like that. And I am fortunate to say that. I know people that go to conventions and stuff, I feel like are going to have to be dealing with the bad eggs and bad actors more.
Yeah.
But I like the way I look at it is, especially now, as I've like kind of come out to my own queerness and gone through a lot of stages of self-acceptance, I've also gotten more into Pokemon while those things have been happening. And I think there is just in Pokemon generally a lot of queerness across the board, from like the designs of the creatures themselves, to like some of the characters in Pokemon feeling very gender, as sometimes as we say, very gendery, and also like transcoded. And I think that's really cool. Like I'm thinking of like Risa from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet specifically. And like I remember when I was doing a Nintendo podcast and me and my co-host Mike, like that was something I brought up of like why I like this game maybe more than other folks do, because there is like, it feels like it's brimming with a little bit more of that queerness, even if it's not as explicit. I think if you'll ask any queer person, like we'll find queer representation in every media because we're looking for it, right?
Yeah.
But also like Pokemon itself, as for what you can do, it being kind of, especially modern Pokemon, much more of a self-expressive franchise, like not just in what your character wears and fashion and stuff, but also like the Pokemon on your team really can represent you on a larger scale. I think that inherently just draws queerness to it, because it gives us an outlet to express ourselves, express some of the queerness. Like I can have a shiny Sylveon on my team, and because it looks like the trans flag, people can kind of get the vibe. And I think that's really cool. And I think the designing your character and your fashion and your team is a very self-expressive thing that I've seen a lot of queer people get into. And in the pockets of people that I follow that cover Pokemon, which is a lot more nowadays, like I've definitely found the more queer friendly parts of the community. So I haven't had to see the ugly bits as much. But yeah, I would say just like Pokemon is such a great vehicle for self-expression, and that's how my like it's helped me as a trans woman, and that's how it feels more like a safe space where more queer people are going to show up, because we love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love hearing that because, as like a cis straight guy, right? I never
Mm-hmm.
really feel resistance in anything. And one of the things that kind of opened my eyes very young was after Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, by the time Crystal came out, that was the first time you could select a female character. And that was a huge deal for everyone. And that wasn't really a huge deal to me. Like, it was kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. Show me the new Mons. You know what I mean? Or what's going on in Crystal. And that's the first time I had to sit back and think about, like, oh, yeah, of course. Women playing this game want to be represented in the game, so let them pick a female character. You know what I mean? So it's always awesome to hear that some of these communities, for better or worse, end up having these spaces where people can feel comfortable. And to your point, I like the expression part of the team, because it's not even always necessarily just a queer thing. It's also like a personality thing too, where it's
Mm-hmm.
just specifically like one of the guests, Grant Stoner, who's a disability reporter, was talking about how a lot of his favorite Pokemon are like Machamp and Steelix, and he unfortunately suffers from a disability that has limited his use of his limbs and stuff. And he was talking about how maybe it's a subconscious thing of he wants to be the big, strong Pokemon. So that's kind of why he kind of flocks them as his favorite teams. And I thought that was super interesting and neat. So, yeah, I just love that Pokemon, like we talked about multiple times already, can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
Yeah, and I think now more than ever, there are a lot more types of Pokemon games that have invited a lot more types of players. You know,
Great point.
if you ignore the people that are like, this is trash and I hate Pokemon now because for whatever reason.
Old man yelling at clouds, yeah.
Yeah, then I think you can really appreciate some aspects like that people are not looking to as a priority in their Pokemon games. Some people don't care about fashion or whatever, but for others like me, like that's a huge selling point, and that's a big reason why I get into stuff like Legend ZA and all of its different like outfits and stuff you can get.
Also, stop being so boring, people out there. There's so, like you said, there's so many parts of the Pokemon series that if one part just doesn't interest you anymore, find a pocket that interests you. There's so many avenues to express yourself in the series. I don't. It just seems a little lazy, and also it just seems like sometimes people love to complain, and maybe you do grow out of interest for something, but it doesn't mean like A, it's not good anymore, or B, you can't come back to it later down the line. I know so many friends, and not even just with Pokemon, but just stuff they loved in general, whether it's like, I don't know, Avatar: The Last Airbender or other aspects of hobby stuff, that they kind of lose interest in it, and then years down the line they come back to it. Like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
I don't know, I think
totally.
people just like being angry on the internet these days for anything.
Yeah,
Pokemon's an easy target because of how popular it is.
Yes, exactly. I totally agree.
To our second question, when you sent me your list of your favorite Pokemon, something I caught that I kind of was really interested in was that Galarian, Ponyta, and Rapidash and Alolan Ninetales were both in your list of your top 5-ish Pokemon. So I want to know specifically, because like we talked about people complaining about the series, this is a hot topic with people. What is your opinion on regional variants as a whole, and what Pokemon would you love to see get regional variants in the future?
I love regional variants. I think that's one of the coolest aspects of Pokemon that's been like introduced in the last few years, or I guess 10 years, because the Alolan games came out like a decade ago. But yeah, I think it's a great thing. I like taking a Pokemon you're familiar with, like we were just talking about with Spearow and Fearow, and like revamping it in a way that could potentially be like, oh, this old version of this Pokemon is not really well liked, or it's not used a lot, or it has a bad type matchup, and like, hey, let's give it a new type matchup or a new type in general, and kind of revamp its stats and make it a new thing that can live somewhere else, literally. And I really love that. I mean, like Alolan Ninetales and Galarian Rapidash like stick out to me. They're both fairy type. I really like fairy type Pokemon. If I was a gym leader, I'd be a fairy type gym leader probably. But I like the typing that they have. Fairy Ice I think is really great, and I think Fairy Psychic is really great. Gardevoir is almost always on my team because of that. The things that I want them to do more of with variants, like they did the legendary birds as like Galarian variants, and I thought that was super cool. I'd love to see that done with like a box legendary at some point. I know they're supposed to be kind of like representative of their region, but like if we got like a regional Mewtwo or something like that, regional Lugia and Ho-Oh, one of the older ones probably, I think that could be super, super sick. I mean, people love Shadow Lugia from Gale of Darkness. Like I think stuff like that is super, super cool, and also in kind of the flavor of a regional variant. And I want to see like more legendaries get that treatment. We also got like in Paldea, they gave us paradox versions of the Swords of Justice and the Three Beasts, which I thought were less cool than the like regional variants. I didn't love the paradox Pokemon. I thought they were fine, but like just not my favorite kind of Pokemon gimmick. But yeah, I want to see more legendary variants. I want to see box legendary variants. That's the dream. I think this is like a great thing for the series because, like our Spearow example, it can just take something old and make it new again. It can be a way to like not have to pad out our Pokemon designs with like stinkers, I guess you could say, into the future. Like we can revisit old designs and make them fresh again. And one of my favorite things they've ever done is the regional variants of the starters that they did in Legends Arceus. I think that was so cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think also it gives them justification to add evolutions. So people are like, why haven't we seen this evolution before for this Pokemon? It's been around forever. I think Farfetch'd, right? Farfetch got his Galarian form, and then he got Surfetch'd. So it's like, well, yeah, it makes sense that the Galarian version of it is the one that evolves, because people would be wondering, okay, we've been here with Farfetch for almost 30 years. Why on earth has he not evolved until now? So I think the regional variant opens up the door for that as well. I'm curious to see at what point they do non-time travel regional variants for the starters, and kind of open the floodgates there. I think that'll be a very interesting time to see how the internet reacts. And if I know the internet, it won't be well. Maybe
Probably
that's when we'll get our
not.
Charizard Dragon type finally.
That's like a great example of like we could potentially get something like that, and it could fill this gap that people have wanted to fill for a while. And I don't know, I think a regional Charmander or just Charizard would be really cool.
If you had to put money on it, what do you think happens first? A regional variant of Charmander, the Charmander line that's not tied to like a Legends game, that's more like modern, so it's not a time travel thing, or a new type?
Ooh. I would say a regional Charmander variation is more likely.
Yeah, I've heard people talk about they want a light type because we have dark type. But I'm like, isn't that kind of fairy already? And then electric.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want like a mechanical typing that's different than steel type, where it's like the stuff that, like the man-made Pokemon, like Rotom and Porygon and all those weirdos. I think they kind of deserve their own typing that's not normal and not steel, whatever you would call that, technology
Cyber type.
Yeah. We talked about some Uggos that could use some love. So the next question here, the third question, the Elite Four. Who's the ugliest starter Pokemon? I said only base here. You can include evolutions if you want, because oftentimes the middle evolutions are the Uggos for a lot of them.
Oh. Yeah, I was gonna say I was going off of base here, so and I was like really staring at like all 30 of these little guys for a while, and being like, Sobble, I guess. Like Sobble's probably my least favorite design of all of the starters. But if we're including middle children, then Chestnut's middle evolution is an abomination.
Oh, Quilladin? You don't like
Quilladin? Quilladin is just a rough one in my opinion.
That's how I feel about Charmeleon. Charmeleon has always been so ugly to me.
Sure, yeah.
It's funny, so all these questions, I try to make at least 3 of the 4 unique to the guest. This is the one repeat question I had, and you are not the first guest to say Sobble. My problem with Sobble as an evolutionary line in general is it's like the incel Pokemon. It gives me such hardcore incel vibes throughout it, which sucks because in a vacuum, if you hear about the design of, it's this like secret agent lizard that his Dynamax form is, he becomes a sniper. That sounds cool. But then when you see it actually in use, it's like, oh no, never mind. Yeah, I don't really like this.
I think like on paper the idea of like a sniper water type Pokemon is cool, but just like as soon as that comes into practice in any way, I think it's just gonna look a little silly.
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe Inteleon is like particularly not great design, but yeah, I don't know. Not everything needs to be bipedal. That's all we gotta say,
Oh, for sure. That's a whole other conversation its own. I love the memes that are going around of Pombon's feet being taped to the floor. It's really fun.
Yes, it's very good.
The last question here. So we mentioned this a little bit, but so you told me you recently, with Pokemon Legends ZA, got into shiny hunting. Mm-hmm. So we kind of already talked about the first part of this question, which was what sparked the interest in ZA of all games, which was the Sylveon. What is it called again? Mega.
Mass outbreaks.
Mass outbreaks. Yeah, there you go.
Also that, and I had just played Legends Arceus beforehand,
Okay.
and that game has like kind of a different shiny system of like completing Pokedex entries and things like that. I got really into that, and a lot of shiny Pokemon. If you play that game, shiny Pokemon are going to show up. And I really liked that, and that was also a bit of a gateway at the same time.
And then favorite shiny ever and favorite shiny you own. I'm assuming this is the answer to both of this is Sylveon.
I will say Charizard is a banger shiny,
Yeah.
and it definitely stands out to me. It's like one of those. Same with like Greninja, like anything that's like all black, I think is gonna look super cool. Sylveon is probably it for the transness of it all, but of my like shinies that I have now, which I'm happy to say is like at least 200 or so. Again,
Damn.
almost exclusively because of Legend ZA. The Aeon duo, Latias and Latios, I
Oh,
have
cool.
shiny. I'm very proud of having those.
Underrated shiny for me is Espeon. I think the green is it Espeon that's
Yeah,
green, or is it Umbreon? I
Espeon's
always get
green.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
alien
super
looking.
cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And the last part of this, I guess maybe you already answered this, and we can pass on this question. But the last part of this was, do you have a fun, interesting, or informative story or experience shiny hunting you'd like to share? But we kind of covered that in the core memory, talking about your Sylveon hunt. So if you want to pass this, it's really up to you.
I had another kind of funny one. I was when I started shiny hunting ZA, and then I kind of went back to some games like Pokemon Shield, and I was doing my currently only maybe only ever Masuda hunt because it took forever for Galarian Ponyta. I wanted to get the little mint green shiny of that, and I was doing it over the course of like 16 hours. I'm hatching eggs as quick as possible. I think it took about 800 eggs, which was like 3 sessions over the course of about 2 weeks. And keep in mind, I'm just like watching YouTube and walking around. And that
Passively,
was,
yeah.
yeah, that was the whole thing. And I was like about to give up hope. And I'm like on the couch with my partner, Mallory. And she's like, "Oh, you wanted the shiny? I didn't realize this next one will be shiny." And then it hatched and it was. And we both just started
Wow.
freaking out. That's like a standout funny story. I feel very somehow all of the planets aligned for that one moment, and it was very good.
I love when stuff like that happens, just for no apparent
Mm,
reason. Just an awesome coincidence. I love that stuff.
yeah.
I want to thank you on this next segment. So this is a team building exercise where we pick a fictional character, my guest does. It could be from video games, books, film, television. We build the perfect Pokemon team for that chosen character, focus on what Pokemon fit most the core of the character, that being vibes, personality, lore of the series they're from. Each of us will present 3 Pokemon to build a team of 6, but I ask both of us to come with between 3 to 6 selections just so we don't double up on anybody. And the reason I want to thank you, Ari, is because you picked a character that's near and dear to my heart. If it's like a Marvel character or Lord of the Rings character, I'm good to go on those. So you picked
Hmm.
Samwise Gamgee, which is awesome. Other guests have chosen the likes of Sora from Kingdom Hearts. The one that was the toughest for me was somebody chose the 11th Doctor from Doctor Who, which I
Oh,
had no touchstones to at all. Culturally, sure, but yeah, I had to do some research, a little bit of homework on that one.
yeah, that's fair. I think I am maybe a little familiar with the 11th Doctor. I think is that David Tennant? I don't know.
No, that's
Um,
Matt Smith. I
Matt Smith.
learned.
Okay, then that is the one I'm familiar with. I just don't know what number any of the doctors are. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When you asked this question, I had the inkling because you didn't tell me it was for this. I had the inkling that it was like, oh, we're gonna build a team for whoever this is, and I was
I kept it
thinking
a little
like,
vague.
yeah, and I appreciate that. I Sam came to mind for a few reasons that we'll get to when we get to the Pokemon that I chose for his team.
So we'll start with you. You'll go first, and then if you mention somebody I have on my list, I'll just cross them off, and vice versa. But yeah, but the floor is yours, Ari.
I picked all 6, and my theming with Samwise Gamgee, and the reason I picked him is like I pictured him very much as like having all of the vegetable Pokemon.
That's funny.
and
Okay.
and being kind of more of like grass leaning, and with some exceptions in there. So I had for his team Gorgeist, because I like Gord was like immediately where I went for whatever the first one is. I had Arbaliva,
We're only
which I
doing one at a
thought.
time. We'll go back and
Oh,
forth.
okay.
Let's go. We're picking a team of 6. So shoot me with Goregeist. Is it just because
Gorgeist.
it seems a little scary for Sam, but I guess it's just the pumpkin vibes.
Yeah, I think Sam is very much pumpkin vibes. I read Samwise Gamgee as a pumpkin person, or any gourd for that matter. Any like a large vegetable, I think he would love. So that's why to other people, Gorgeist is scary. To Samwise, Gorgeist is like just a little guy.
I love that. So we kind of went similar paths, but slightly different. I don't have any vegetables on my list, but I do have a lot
Okay.
of grass types.
Okay.
So first off, I was thinking about obviously Samwise is one of the main characters. According to Tolkien, he's considered the hero of the story, really.
Hmm.
Um, so I was thinking like, what starters would a lot of the main characters have? And I was like, okay, Frodo wouldn't have Charmander. That doesn't fit him. I could see him picking Squirtle because he's a little bit mischievous, but he does the right thing when he needs to, which is totally Squirtle vibes. So I was like, oh, well, obviously, Samwise is going to have a grass type. I picked Bulbasaur because he's a little bit of a cutie. I could totally see, Bulbasaur laying out in one of the patches of the fields that Sam's working on, and he accidentally goes to water a Pokemon, and Bulbasaur pops out or something. Um, as heroic as Samwise is, he's very much a little bit of a sappy, romantic, and a little bit of a
Yeah.
softie most of the time. And I like the image of him walking around with a Bulbasaur. It was pretty fitting. I could just see him being annoyed when it finally turns into a Venusaur and this giant toad that he has to worry about. That isn't the little cutesy guy he used to have. So that's my first choice, Bulbasaur.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't think of any starters for him. I was just like trying to like not lean on starters, but I do love that. Bulbasaur is like a really good fit for Samwise. Second, I chose Arboliva. I think anything with like a byproduct that can create wine,
Oh
for
yeah.
sure, Sam's gonna have hanging out in his garden and also just hanging out with him.
Yeah, if there was a Pokemon that created like beer or something, I think they definitely have it in Hobbiton just sitting around.
100%,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I like Arboliva. I'm hoping that we have a good selection. We've done this with a lot of the other episodes of having Pokemon from different generations, and Arboliva is one of the new ones. And yeah, I love that choice because it is true. The hobbits would probably want Pokemon that are dual purpose of their being their friends, but also produce something that they can use in day to day
Exactly.
life. Um, Speaking of that, him being a gardener, I figured he'd want a Pokemon that was at some point a water type, just to maybe help him watering the gardens. And I picked Lotad out of the trio of Alambre and Ludicolo, because I like the idea that it helps ferry other Pokemon who can't swim in the water. So if there was
Yeah.
ever a point where like the crops and stuff got overwatered, he'd help them out. He's a little cutesy guy. I also think it being a fully evolved Ludicolo would be hilarious in Hobbiton during their celebrations. I just thought the image to me was really funny, so I picked Lotad.
Yeah, I really like that. I also just feel like for my next pick, Appleton is just extremely Sam coded.
Hell yeah.
Um, just like I imagine it sitting on the windowsill, just like with the smoked tart kind of like steaming and hanging out with Sam. That's the dream right there.
I love that. So that was your last pick, so we're down to 5. Do you want to mention the other ones that didn't make the cut?
Yeah, I had Scovillain on there because I just like the idea of like byproduct, and then also something fiery in there to switch up the typing. I had Daxbun as well, because I thought that would be really cute for Sam to have a dog made of buns. And then for his ace, the last one I had written was Vileplume, as like
Oh,
his
hell
kind
yeah.
of heavy hitter.
So my last choice is going to be Riolu. This is more for Adventure Sam, not really like Hobbiton Sam. But
Mm-hmm.
Riolu and Lucario are obviously like very empathetic Pokemon, which I think fits Samwise. And they can sense other people's emotions, which I think Samwise was really keen at doing during the events of Lord of the Rings. And I do think, to your point of changing up the typings, it's nice to give him a fighting type because, like we mentioned, as much as a softie he is, during points in which he needs to be a little bit more aggressive and forceful, he does so to help out the people he cares about. I think
Yeah.
Riolu and Lucario are very much the same way in that sense.
Yeah, I really like that. You came at this from a totally different angle, which I appreciate, and I
I
love
love
it.
your angle more than mine, to be honest. All the food guys is totally Hobbit coded. I love it so much.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly where I was coming from. So yeah.
My ones I did make the cut. Chansey, cutesy fairy type that helps others. Sounds pretty easy. After the events of the War of the Ring, there's like a passage that talks about how Sam went around planting a bunch of saplings to kind of
Hmm.
rejuvenate the forest. I do think it'd be funny for him to have a Bonsley that isn't a grass type at all, right? It's a rock type. That's just a sapling that's kind of useless to his endeavor. I thought that was just really funny, and him having to deal with it when it evolves is also. I like the idea of Sam having Pokemon that get more annoying as they grow. They just love that of him getting a little bit frustrated, but loving them all the same. And
Yeah,
then the last one is very utility, is him having a Pokemon he can ride while he's handling all of the fields and the gardens and stuff. And Go Goat, a little grass goat guy that he can ride around in Hobbiton.
yeah, Go-Go's perfect, I think.
So our team is Gourgeist, Bulbasaur, Arboliva, Lotad. I'm missing your last one. Which one was
Appleton.
your last one? Appleton and Riolu. That's our team of 6 for Samwise Gamgee. Pretty good team,
Heck
decent
yeah.
typing coverage. We
Yeah.
had to have mostly grass types because that's Hobbit coded. I love the food thing. I'm gonna be thinking about that because yeah, we approach it from totally different. I was more of like the personality vibes of Sam himself, and you were much so like, well, no, a Hobbit's gonna have a bunch of Pokemon
Yeah.
that are food based that can produce stuff. Yeah, because they're hobbits.
I'm
Love
picturing
it.
Sam working in the garden with all of his grass foody Pokemon and just
Yeah,
loving that.
like having a mill tank too would have totally fit.
Yep, totally.
Okay, so been a lot pretty positive throughout the show, and this doesn't necessarily have to be negative, but I know everybody has their opinions on how the Pokemon series can change. If you could, this is forced evolution, change anything about the Pokemon franchise, what would it be and why?
Yeah, I thought about this a little bit, and I've talked with my partner about this as well because she's into Pokemon. A thing that I think would be really wild and would be exciting. I don't think they'll ever do this. Keep in mind, but would be adding a seventh Pokemon to player teams.
Oh, okay.
I know people might go for like a new type or some other battle gimmick, but I think just like having an additional Pokemon for more coverage would be really cool and could make a stuff like the Elite Four way harder, but B just allow for more because there's just so much variety at this point. I feel like we almost need more coverage for some of those more intense battles, and that could lead to more intense battles. I, yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't think it's something they have to do, but thinking of like a change I'd like to see in Pokemon, I think I'd really love to see being able to have an additional Pokemon on your team.
I like that. Another idea I've seen people talk about is in the Alola Islands, they introduced like the ride Pokemon. It'd be interesting if you had a different roster that was Pokemon you selected to be the stand-ins for when you did certain stuff in the game. Like when you use Fly, it'd be a Pokemon you specifically chose. You'd see it every time you do the animation or the act, or
Yeah,
when you dive and stuff. So it's kind of like not the team you're necessarily using to battle, but it's the team you use to traverse. Kind of like mostly so you don't only see the 6 same ones while you're going through a playthrough, and you can kind of have some variety and pay a little bit of love to some old favorites. You know what I mean? I don't know if it would ever happen because a lot of times with these games as the series go on they kind of get stuck in their ways, but maybe it could also be uh, a middle ground where the partner Pokemon that's following you is also part of your team, but it doesn't show up when you go to your 6, I guess, or something. I don't know. I
hmm
That seems like something that they're like, well, it's 6 Pokemon. We made this whole other game called Pokemon Champion, which you're gonna have 6 Pokemon to. We can't add a 7th. That's too much work. Which is,
yeah. I
I
don't
think
think
that's
it'll
probably a
ever
good excuse.
happen. But boy, would I love it. I'm the person that's always like trying to squeeze everyone in on my team. So it's like, oh, I could really use one more slot.
When you play a new generation, I know you've kind of gotten into it heavy recently. So I think the only one you've been able to do this, and I'm assuming is 9. Are you the type that goes in? It might be different for you, but I guess what I'm trying to ask is, you go in trying to use as many new Pokemon as possible and not running through another playthrough with old favorite Pokemon you're used to, just so you can learn about new Pokemon?
Definitely. I like trying to get more new Pokemon on my team. And when I'm like getting ready for the Elite Four specifically, I'm like, all right, I want to have the most new and diverse team for coverage. And especially like when I played Scarlet and Violet, and I know a lot of people hate the experience share stuff. I am not one of those people. I am spoiled by modern Pokemon and I love it. I was swapping out my team constantly. Like I
Okay.
was bringing in new people, training them up as well. Like any new Pokemon that I thought looked cool or had a cool type matchup, I was trying to at least give a honest try to.
Love that. And I'm ambivalent on the whole experience share thing. Play the game how you want to. It doesn't really. You want all the XP, get all the XP. I have been enjoying with Leaf Green having to swap out my guys. It's kind of like a little the masochist in me. You know what I mean? It's like this sucks compared to modern games, but the nostalgia in me loves it so much for some damn reason. Our last segment, I guess second to last segment if you count the closing of the show. Return to Sender. This is a point, Ari, where you can ask me anything you like about Pokemon, my relationship with it, anything else.
I had a couple written here. Do you have a favorite legendary Pokemon?
Favorite legendary Pokemon is interesting. I'm not anti-legendary Pokemon, but when I gravitate to making like my usually I'm like, oh, these are my 6 favorite from this generation. I very rarely include legendary Pokemon. And it's not necessarily intentional. I just often the weird lore brain of me is like, well, there's only like one of them or few of them, so it being my favorite doesn't really make sense immersion
Sure.
wise. It's a very weird thing for with me. I don't know. If I had to pick one though, I could. I'm gonna be basic and probably say Lugia. It's definitely between like Lugia, Mewtwo, and Suicune. Probably Lugia. Though there was a time and point when I watched the third Pokemon movie where I think everyone thought Entei was cool as hell. But then going
Yeah.
back and watching that movie later on in life, I'm like, oh, this is not a very good movie, and I just don't doesn't really vibe all that well. So
Yeah.
I guess I would say Lugia out of any legendary, probably.
Okay.
And the three
Oh,
birds, but that's kind of a cheat code too.
yeah. Do you have what's your favorite generation, excluding the first generation?
Outside of Gen 1, um, it's tough. Like, I love Johto so much, and I really wish we'd go back to it in a tangible way soon.
Yeah.
Gen 5, so I've talked about this before on the show, that I think that Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and the Gen 5 games are the best games in the series as, like, video games in terms of, like, narrative and what they offer in terms of content. But in
Hmm.
terms of favorite generation, I would probably say because it has my most the Pokemon I like the most out of any Pokemon since Gen 3. Not saying I don't have my favorites in every gen, but this one like shot to like top 10 list of all of my favorite Pokemon. And that's Tinkaton. So I'd probably say Gen 9. Tinkaton is one of my
Okay.
favorite Pokemon. I just love the image of this little cutesy fairy type with a giant warhammer. Like the
Yeah.
juxtaposition of that is so funny to me, and the typing is unreal. So it's like, oh, it's a good Pokemon, and it's just a really funny design that I vibe with. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that because we get into these new generations. There's Pokemon you like for sure, and their starters and stuff. But Tinkaton immediately rose to like top 10 status for me personally, which doesn't happen because for better or worse, I am like a first 3 gen guy of liking a lot of those Pokemon. So it was cool to have a new Pokemon that kind of shot up as quickly as it did. So yeah, it'd probably be Gen 9 and then Gen 5 in the mix as well.
I appreciate the Gen 5 love. I feel like a lot of people that I talk to have just like either gave up by Gen 5 or have just never played it. And that
Which
bums me out.
sucks because
Yeah.
they're so good.
It's they're so good, especially Black and White 2. I put like 90 hours into that game. So good.
Well, and the fact that
Um
it forced you to have to use the new Pokemon from the get
yeah.
go in Black and White, which is something I wish they did more often.
Yeah.
Because it is a personal rule I do, but I wish more people would do that because they might find other new Pokemon they like. Because I have friends, and you probably have the same, that I'm just going to play the favorites. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I'm just play the greatest hits. I'm going to start this game. How do I get Charizard in here? How do I get whoever the hell else? And that's fine. Play Pokemon however you want. But for me, it's like, well, if I'm entering a new generation, I want to learn the new Pokemon and enjoy them. You know what I mean? How are you
Yeah.
with pre-release spoilers? Are you somebody who looks at the decks or like loosely trying to figure out what your team's going to be, or you try to be as media blackout as possible?
I try to be as media blackout as possible, but generally I try and do that with everything, almost every game that I play. Yeah, I like my partner. She's like, I need to know what the final evolutions of the starters are before I choose one. And I'm like, I don't want to know any of the evolutions of any of the new Pokemon. I want to be able to like have that moment where I'm like, oh, what the hell is this thing about to turn into?
Not even the
you know?
starters? You're
Not
like,
even the
I'm
starters.
bipedal or not.
Yeah,
I'm
bipedal or
going on the
not,
ride.
I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. Like I want to be surprised by my little guy when it's all grown up, you know?
That's fair. It's funny. I'm the opposite of that with Pokemon, but with every other point of entertainment in my life, I'm like you. And part of it is I have a photographic memory, so I have a really tough problem with if I watch too many trailers for the same thing, as I'm experiencing the thing, I can piece together everything, and it kind
Yeah,
of loses its luster for me.
yeah,
And it's like, well, I know where that's okay. This is where this scene is. I was in the trailer piece with this thing, and it kind of ruins all of it. Especially, I'm a big Marvel guy, so and they tend to spoil so much stuff in the trailers. So I have to be very careful with that. But for Pokemon, for some reason, I think it's just because I go in knowing I'm going to use a new team that I want to make sure I have type coverage and I can introduce myself to 6 characters that are all different typings. I wish I was more like you, though, to be completely honest, because I would like the real surprise of seeing what it evolves into. But man, when you're online, as much as people are these days, it's just hard. You don't even have
it's
the self
hard.
control, unfortunately.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I do what you do, like just after I roll credits, basically. As soon as I finish the regular game, not even the post game, I'm like, all right, now I want to know where everybody is. Like, tell me all your
Yeah.
secrets.
Thank you very much for joining me. Once again, shout out to Auri O'Neill for being on the podcast and sharing their Pokemon experiences with me. Please, Ari, if there's anywhere on the internet you want people to find you, let them know where they can do so.
Yeah, I'm taking it easy at the moment, but you know, you can follow me on Instagram at Ari Means Wind. You can follow me on Blue Sky at Ari Means Wind. And yeah, mostly I'm cooking a lot. I'm baking a lot. I'm making tons of new food and stuff, and that's what I've been really into lately. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Now I get the Samwise connection with the Pokemon you picked. It's because you're cooking all the foods. You're like, I want to, you know what I mean? It fits
Yeah, and
perfectly.
I just started like reading Lord of the Rings for the first time, so it's
Oh,
on
neat.
my mind a lot for sure. That was kind of where I was going with it.
I have one last pop quiz question for you.
Yeah, hit me.
Uh, oh man, that's what it is. So who are you eyeing in the new starters for Gen 10?
I'm here for Pombon and his
Bonbon. Okay,
little fluffy legs
little
that are
doggo.
taped to the ground.
It's a really solid collection. I'm very curious to see what they turn into because I like all of their base forms, which usually there's one I'm not super fond of, but I like all of these guys. I love
Yeah,
Pombon. I love Brout's probably my favorite going in, and I'm hoping that it rounds out the unfortunately, but fortunately, the bipedal starter fighting types. Because we have
hmm
Blaziken, we have Quackavall, which I was not. I loved Quaxley so much, and then I saw the final evolution. I'm like, I'm not vibing with this at all. At all.
yeah,
Actually, such a great design, man. One of my
yeah.
favorite starter designs. Anyways, thank you guys for listening to the very best. Once again, thank you to Ari O'Neill for joining me. Here's hoping you catch them all, or at the very least, work to become your very best. Goodbye.